On this episode of Front End Fire, Vercel has a new tool for building UIs with your LLMs. NPM is taking yet more security measures. And we're going to talk about Ralph Wiggum loops because apparently those are a thing now.
Big deal. Yes.
It's Front End Fire. Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome to Front End Fire, the weekly show that helps you stay up to date on the latest and the greatest in the front end world. I am your host today, TJ Van Tol. I have Jack Harrington with me.
Hello.
And I have Paige Niedringhaus.
Hey everybody.
And we are excited to be back. We have some interesting stuff, I guess, to talk about this week.
Yeah.
kind of all over the place. So
yeah,
it should be fun stuff. So let's do it. All right, I feel like we need to establish Paige's security hour as a segment of this show. But Paige, I think you've got another update for us.
We do. NPM is out with a new feature that I should say it's a proposal still, but it's called staged publishing. So if you've been in the NPM ecosystem for any length of time, especially recently, you'll know that there have been a lot of supply chain attacks in 2025 towards the fall, winter, timeframe. Shai-Hulud was the name of the worm. It came back multiple times. It wreaked havoc on the ecosystem. And the first thing that GitHub did was to deprecate their use of classic tokens, which was the most common and straightforward way of publishing to NPM, because the tokens were being stolen, the credentials were being used, and then malware was being published to large, really popular package repositories. That caused a lot of consternation and pain within the maintainers world because it was rolled out so quickly that it made it very unsustainable for large-scale maintainers because there was no API for bulk setup. You still had to use a manual config for NPM on a per package basis to say, this is my trusted publishing script. There was just a lot of bad, out-of-date docs, unclear error messages, tooling issues. It was not great. It has not been a smooth
still
transition.
Still a pain in the butt, even today.
Yeah.
Still biting me in the butt
very much.
Right now.
Very much.
Yeah.
So the next step that NPM has taken is they're introducing a thing called a staged publishing model. And basically, this is a review window that will exist before a new version of a package is published and becomes publicly available so that the maintainers can look at it. They can make sure that the code is actually what they want to go out to general availability and, confirm or deny it, which seems like a good review step, honestly. I'm not sure exactly how this is going to impact large scale publishing. Like if you're a maintainer of several hundred, popular NPM packages or even just a handful, is this really going to slow down your workflow immensely? Possibly. Is it going to be another thing that you have to do like on a per package basis? So all you're doing is reviewing and confirming new versions? Possibly also. But it's just another step to try and mitigate all of these attack vectors that are out there now. And it's just another way to try and safeguard. And they're also, in addition to this, they're also adding more OIDC trusted publishers and expanding support for additional CI pipelines, because before or early on, it was only GitHub Actions and GitLabs that were available to be trusted publishers. And so they're trying to expand the arena so that there are more ways that you can say, this is also my trusted publishing workflow. So, we just got to keep an eye on what is happening in terms of NPM security and keep trying to stay up to date. They're doing their best in an uphill battle.
Yeah, for sure.
So when a release is staged, because this is called staged publishing, does that mean who is testing it at that point? How are they testing it? Is there just some mechanism for maintainers only to get at this, or is this for public people can use it? How do you know how that works?
So I believe that it is going to be a maintainer of the package that has to go through and approve that this is good code, this is a version that they're aware of or that they wanted to publish. Because it says it's a registry level review step before packages become publicly available. So I think it's just another checkpoint in the publication process that they're adding to pause and be like, is this version something that you intended, or is this something that you've never seen before and somebody has obviously tried to push something unknown into this package?
I see. So it's less like this is a beta or release candidate, and it's more like a two-factor auth almost situation where
yes,
instead of just pushing it live on the registry, it gets staged, and then presumably a maintainer has to go into their email or something like that and answer like a "is it really you" type of
how many bytes
email
are on this image?
right.
How
Did
many
you mean
NPM
to publish
packages
this?
are in this? Yeah.
Is that a
Yes.
stairway or is that part of a stairway? I don't even know. Oh my God. Okay.
Yes,
Sure.
I think so. I
Yes,
think it's
great.
a manual step.
I get it.
Okay.
I think it's actually good. I mean, if we can't, like, it's just kind of, yeah, okay, it makes sense. It's just going to be such a pain, man. Ugh. Especially if you're like pushing out like multiple stuff. If you're like, oh, we had a bug, didn't see that, or ooh, we forgot a module or something like that. It's like, oh God.
Yeah, I worry about this, especially if it's going to be implemented across beta packages, because those are, you're like, oh, I forgot to add this. Let me just republish a new version so I can test what I'm doing. If you have to manually go and confirm all of those, that is going to be a huge pain in the butt.
Well, it looks like this is open for feedback at the moment, so hopefully
Yes,
this sort of
still a
feedback makes
proposal.
it back to them.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you, because we have some automated flows that sort of mass publish beta and some extraneous type of stuff, and this could get annoying for that really quickly. But I mean, hopefully these sort of things get addressed before they get
At
pushed out.
TEDSec, we have like depending on the monorepo, we have like a way to do like per PR like unpackage type stuff where you can like literally just hook your dependencies onto unpackage with this PR blah 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 or commit
And pull it
hash,
straight
whatever.
in.
And that's cool. So I mean that would definitely, I think it wouldn't hit any of this. Like that's just its own thing. And if you're hooked onto that, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
I
yeah,
get it. I get it.
It's still in proposal, so there's plenty of ways that it could change, but this is kind of what they're thinking is another way to try and stem the tide of bad actors.
Yeah, and they're less concerned about the small handful of people that are maintaining these that have to be annoyed, and far more concerned about the masses that use NPM and don't want to be downloading exploits from compromised accounts. So
Yeah.
Okay, as
Yeah.
they should be. Clearly, their
Yeah.
heads are in ways. It's just yes, I get it. Like, ugh.
All right. So in other news, Jack, I hear Vercel has got more AI tooling for us.
Yeah, there's a new. Well, have you guys ever heard of Vercel Labs? I didn't know they had a labs. Apparently, they do. So they've got a labs, and they just put out this thing called json-render, and the idea is that LLMs can you give them a vocabulary of like a dialogue, a button, an input field, or whatever, as a catalog of different parts, UI parts, and then it gives you back JSON that you, I guess, as a structured output, and then you can then render that. So theoretically, your LLM your app could say, okay, cool. We've got a dashboard and we want, we've got these graphs, and you get to select between the graphs, and maybe there's an export button on there. And then when you click on the export button, it actually calls back to you as like the kind of host container. So, it's very flexible. It's really cool. You get the ability for the LLM to basically generate a new app UI on the fly, but it's also, because it's fixed within this JSON world, it's very guardrailed. So I think it's pretty interesting, actually. Yeah.
Is this
Have
similar
you
to
tried it out?
MCP UI?
I have not tried it out. I was just on a work thing, so yeah, we didn't get a chance. I mean, it came out right in the middle of that. There was another guy actually who, given all the excitement around 10-sec start, like everybody jumps on everything, and this guy like took it into his boilerplate, and then he shoots me over his boilerplate, and his boilerplate's literally like the kitchen sink app, and he's like, "Oh, well, it's in there." I'm like, "Oh, great, okay." I've got to like dig through this thing that's got like 5 different ways to do auth, and I'm like, oh, jeez, okay, whatever. So yeah, no, I'll take a look at it and maybe talk about it next week. But like, I definitely think that there's a huge area here in terms of having apps respond to like customers like directly, like if you're on in a, I don't know, like a stock trading app or something like that, being able to say like, hey, watch pork belly stocks for me or something like that, and it would automatically generate a dashboard for pork belly stocks or whatever you get on pork belly.
Well, there's
parts and pieces of pork bellies.
This is a very specific example, Jack, but
it's like my trading places example. I keep going back to pork bellies like over and over and over again. And besides, pork bellies are super tasty, so it's like there's that too.
I do see it though, because there's been times where I want to see something when the limited times that I do look into stocks and markets and stuff like that. Oftentimes I do want to see some sort of graph or chart that's specific. And sometimes that can be hard to do, like mapping 2 different stocks over the time period I want. Oh, and also throw the S&P 500 on there because I want to see how it does in comparison to that. And like, so I have in natural language what I want in my head, but good luck going to cnbc.com or whatever and trying to build that yourself, unless you really know what you're doing. If you're in there a lot, sure, you probably know your way around or what to do. And I think it's more than just stock apps too. Like just anytime you have something with data. I mean, I could see this for flights, for insurance, for
I could see this for
government
Blues.
data.
I mean, imagine if you had like an LLM chat AI on Blues, and you're looking at your dashboard and you say, hey, I want to go and put out temperature. Give me a dashboard that shows this temperature, and then give me the code that I would put into my app that would go and publish that. And so you get both, and then boom, you get the graph. You drop this thing in your code. You start, you publish it to your device, and the next thing you know, it's getting temperature, and you can see in real time the thing like on your dashboard. Like that. That's pretty cool.
That is really cool, actually. And I could see, especially if we have customers who are making their own applications already, their own dashboards, if they can go and say, hey, this is the data that I also want to see, and get a response that will work with their existing app. I mean, that's huge, because we never know what they're building it in. It could be in Go, it could be in JavaScript, it could be in, some PHP, who knows.
Yeah, and it could bring in some external data source that they want to see correlated with that, whatever, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
That is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the one thing LLMs are legit good at, because if you think about trying to do this without an LLM, just taking some chunk of natural language and trying to put it into something you could actually build a chart out of is just insane. I'm always skeptical, like with any of these. I feel like we've long known that this is a potentially cool thing, because I brought up MCP UI, similar. There's been other tools that have tried to do. Yeah, well, actually, Jack, can you explain how is MCP UI different than this?
MCP UI be like fixed UIs, like so you're giving the LLM like UI tools, and of which it can select. So I mean, I would say kind of the granularity would be larger, right? You'd be like, more canned experiences, but I mean, maybe you could do this. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think overall though, my point is that we've long known that the potential here is huge, because we can envision this. We're on our stock tracker app and we're getting these dynamic charts, and they're great. The reality though, there's a reason why we're not seeing these live all over the place, because especially when you're doing data in important data sets, making sure this stuff is generated accurately is extraordinarily important. If you're rendering those stock tickers and you screw something up, that's a very bad thing. So
yeah. So you don't want the LLM doing the math. Whatever, at the end of the day, whether it's your component, your actual like UI component that's doing the math, or something else, like it should not be the LLM doing the math.
Even if you're not having the LLM do it, though, having the LLM confident that it understands what data it's being given can also be tricky as well, that it's showing the correct thing on the correct access and the correct unit at the correct, all of that, especially as it gets complicated. If you're showing temperature over time, the LLM is probably going to crush that one. But for some of the things that you want displayed in really rich UIs, it can get challenging.
I mean, the thing is, in this case, they get to define, you as the app creator get to define what the vocabulary of components is. So, if you define it at a very high level, like, we want to show time as one axis and, whatever value, 0, temperature, whatever it is, as these other axis, right? Then that's pretty constrained. But if you basically say, I'm just going to give you access to charting and you get to define all that stuff, it's like, ooh, that could end up wrong for sure. So it's, you just pick your granularity, pick your level.
Yeah, from their website, it looks like that's what they see as their distinguishing feature, that it is, they're putting up these guardrails. So we'll definitely have to check this out because it definitely seems like a good idea.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. My news this week is about Ralph Wiggum, which is just a really, really weird sentence to be saying.
Is Ralph the dad? Is he the cop or is he the kid?
No, he's the kid.
He's the kid.
He's the nose-picking kid. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Got it.
He's the kid on The
Just,
Simpsons.
he's
the one with the meme, if you've seen it, like, I'm in danger, that kid on The Simpsons. And he's raised to... he's become famous in the programming world over the last few weeks because a developer by the name of Jeffrey Huntley coined this term Ralph Wiggum loops. And he actually did it last year, many months ago, but it's become popular. There's just been a ton of YouTube videos and blog posts and Reddit activity and social media activity in just the last week or two. So I don't know what it is that made it caught on about the technique, and it caught my interest, and I tried it out. So I thought I'd bring it up on this show because it's fun and I guess kind of interesting to talk about as well. So if you are hearing about this the first time, a Ralph Wiggum loop is, and I'll take a definition I found online. It's a technique that's an iterative AI development methodology. In its purest form, it's a simple while loop that repeatedly feeds an AI agent a prompt until completion. Named after the Simpsons character, it embodies the philosophy of persistent iteration despite setbacks.
Yes, just grind. Yeah.
And in its simplest form, you can basically think of it as a bash script that just invokes an agent in a script, or in a loop, sorry. So it's just continuously hitting an agent. Now, from there, there's some diverging approaches to what this loop should actually do. And that's part of the conversation that's been happening the last few weeks. But the most common approach that I've seen spelled out, and the one that I tried out earlier this week, is that in the loop, you have the loop read from some sort of requirements doc, so some sort of like PRD. I've seen it implemented as JSON files. So you'll have, say, like a JSON file that's a series of 10 things you want the agent to do. 10 tasks, 10 Jira tickets, I don't know, 10 whatever, 10 tasks for the agent to do. You have some sort of status in there so that the agent can maintain that. And then you also have some sort of text file that's like a progress.txt, something the agent can write to with how it's been going, what it's been doing, and whatnot as well. And then in each loop, you tell it, okay, look through your requirements doc, find like the highest priority or the next logical thing to do. This one loop, you just do that one thing. You give it criteria for what you consider success. So you might say, ensure my unit test pass, or that my build passes, or whatever the case may be. Mark it complete, write your output to the progress text file, and then start the loop over again. Now, like I said, there's different variations on this. Some variations I've seen just sort of brute force the same problem over and over again, with the theory being like, well, you just keep throwing the agent at it over and over again. Sometimes good things happen. Some see this as a way of like clearing a backlog of tasks. Like if you want just one time to throw an agent at something and be able to walk away from it, because this is running in a loop, this is something that could potentially run for hours. You can throw an AI agent at this, walk away, and just come back later in the day and hope for the best. Just kind of see what it came up with. And I've seen different approaches, a little bit everything in between. And so what I did is earlier this week, I wanted to try this out.
Yeah,
so I spent an afternoon.
I have yet to try it out, and I'm really excited to hear how this came out.
Okay. So my approach was, I've long, there's a big React app I work on where React compiler is not enabled because there's some old crappy React code in there that needs to be converted. Yeah, exactly. That needs to be converted in order for this app to work. And it's the classic like backlogged item. Don't really have time. Hard to justify just changing over some React code just to enable React compiler for marginal runtime performance gains. But it's a great task to throw at agents because it's not trivial, because it has to kind of go through an app, find code that could be potentially problematic. It has to address each of those individual problems. And then it has to be confident that those problems have been fixed, and then continue to work through the app to find the next one. And so what I did is I had Claude look through the code base, and I said, I first asked it to just make the plan, right? So the PRD part of this, I said, make like a step plan for how you're going to do this. And Claude, sure enough, it worked for a while. It skimmed through the app. It came up with this 13-step plan in a JSON file. And my first clue should have been that was too many steps and too audacious of a plan that it had made itself. But you know what? I was just letting Claude cook. I was like, looks great, Claude.
See what happens.
You got Spend that money, Claude. Spend that money.
Yeah, exactly. So then I had it, of course, I'm having Claude do all of this. I'm just kind of looking over its shoulder. I had it write this bash script that basically did exactly as the sort of the loop spells out. You basically, each time you go in, you take an item from the list, you do it. The one cool thing about this approach is it is an interesting way of managing the context window, because if you just had an agent run for many, many hours, it's going to quickly run out of context. It's going to have to compact it and whatnot. But because you're running this in a loop, each iteration through, you're recording what you did to this progress text file, but you're going in anew each time.
Yep.
So it does help manage that window when you're running for a long time. And once I got the loop down, it was absolutely fascinating to watch. It ran for 40 minutes. So I was just sitting there watching it take through one item. You'd see it run through, and then it's a item 1 complete. And it would mark it with a green check mark emoji. It did it.
Of course, moving on to an emoji. It's always got to be an emoji.
Moving on to step number 2. And it took me a while to get the loop cycled down. Like there were some starts and stops there. But once it got going, it was really mesmerizing to watch. I had a great time just watching it go through this. It changed like 130 some files. And at the end of the day, it completely and totally did not work. It did not address anything at all. But I did learn something going through this, because I know the reason it didn't fail, or the reason that it did fail, is that I didn't give it clear enough guidance on what is considered a success condition, because it's a very hard thing to test because of the nature of React compiler. When it works, it renders correctly versus not. It's not like a clear error situation when it doesn't work. So lots of times Claude it kept thinking it did it, but it actually didn't. And then when that's the case, then the problem's just because of this. Normally, if you're watching your AI agent, you can step in and go like, whoa, that didn't work. But because I wasn't in the loop, quite literally, to do that, these problems then continued to spiral out of control. And I ended up with a hot mess. So
yeah.
And I feel like that's probably the most likely outcome for anybody listening to this, just randomly throwing this sort of loop at one of your problems. You can have a lot of fun doing this, because I had a great afternoon going through and trying this out and tinkering with this. And I I could see certain scenarios where if I had a list of like basic tasks for a repository that I felt confident, especially if it was in a repo where I had really good scenarios where I knew like, okay, the test pass and the build works, I'm confident that the job is actually done. Where I could see throwing something like this at a backlog or a set of tasks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But outside of that, I think this is more gimmick than an actual useful tool for us to be using.
Yeah, it feels to me a little bit like when you just take the guardrails off of Claude and say yes to all edits, go
Yeah.
forth and do things. Because
Yeah.
it never ends well. It just Claude will gaslight itself into thinking that it has completed its tasks. When there are tests that are unwritten or broken, it will just say, those weren't they were out of the scope of the project that I was working on or the feature that I was doing.
I didn't
Or
make a
stuff
change in
doesn't
that area.
compile.
That can't be me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Claude's like, I don't know why this isn't rendering. It's perfectly, formed for this
No, it did.
HTTP call. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, actually it's not. And you should be able to test this.
Yeah, I definitely had to like say, I don't care whether this is a change based on you. The app has to work.
Right.
Like,
I don't care if you think you broke those tests or not. Fix them.
Exactly.
And I do feel like this is harder for us in the front end world specifically because we do have some things like the Playwright MCP and there's a Chrome DevTools MCP, but sometimes it can be very hard for an agent to know whether the front end code is actually working because sometimes it can be very subtle. Like you broke the hover behavior. Good luck getting an agent to figure that sort of thing out, or it doesn't render right in these if you navigate around. These are things you can have an agent try to do. The Playwright MCP is pretty cool and you can automate some interesting stuff, but it's much harder to give an agent confidence that it's doing the right thing when it's running completely on its own versus you running. And I've seen variations of this too, back to there being multiple ways of doing this, ways where it does ask the human at each sort of step to prompt and to look into things. So that way it's still Claude running through its cycle, but you are at least still in the loop and you prevent it a little bit from just running out of control because obviously this is probably obvious, but it's worth saying that you have the potential to use a whole lot of tokens when you are running these agents in a loop too. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. And if you're checking in each time it runs through this, it gives you at least a little bit of a check-in to put your agent back on track.
I will say, I think what people don't really understand is that every time you go back and forth to an LLM, like, so it asks you to like, or you ask it to like, or it figures out it wants to go and move a file or whatever. And so it makes a tool call. And then the IDE or whatever it is, the harness, does that move or remove or whatever it is, or update or whatever it is, and then puts the results into that messages list, right? That has to go back to the LLM. So, and all of the messages go back to the LLM. So if you had, 30K of messages up to the point where you did a little file move, right? You're gonna send another 30K of messages back, and so think of it like compounding interest. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as you go. So that's how you really jam through those, and eat up your context, because all of those messages, the system prompt, and everything else, that's all context, and it goes through on every single call, and that's why it gets progressively slower as you get deeper into a conversation, and it gets progressively more expensive. And so that's really, I think, what the Wiggum loop is trying to optimize, is basically at every point you just kind of like smush it down and reduce that context, and then start from a fresh context, and then build up, smush again, build up,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. We've had similar learnings at Blues with this Gen AI tool that we're working on, where originally it was have one LLM that writes the SQL query. Then when it gets the data back, it generates insights. After it does that, it also generates a data visualization if it needs to, but it's basically one LLM doing all of it.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay,
And it's slow. It's not super accurate a lot of times. So what we've what we've learned and what we've kind of discovered now is that it's better to have one orchestrator LLM that is aware of the actual question that's being asked, and then it passes off the tasks to be done to a much smaller model that does the SQL query generation. And then once that model returns the data, then it passes it to an insight generation model that does, that pulls out the insights. And then once it's done that, it goes to a data visualization model that knows specifically about how to render a data visualization correctly. And it seems to work a lot better. And it's because those models are so specifically focused on just one little piece of the puzzle. They don't care about the overall overarching question or like what's trying to be answered. Only the orchestrator cares about that. And then it takes all the things that have been given back to it and just like formats it nicely and sends it back to the user at the end. But yeah, it's another way of controlling context, and it does seem to result in better answers most of the time than having one do everything and be aware of the whole situation from start to finish.
The bigger that context window gets, the less accurate the whole thing is. Because it tends to favor the beginning and the end of the context and kind of, leave the middle out a little bit.
Yeah, one tip that I've learned, and I don't know if you guys have done this as well, is that when I see that Claude's context is getting close to being done, it'll give you like 10% till compaction. I'll ask it to summarize everything that it's just done in the current conversation into a short list and then let it compact. But because it's summarized it still remembers like what it was working on, what the most important salient points were of its progress up till that point, and then it can go on and keep on track better than if you just let it run out of context and compact, in the middle of a task, basically.
Yeah, Claude Code there's also a /compact thing that you can run, which I've run as well. But yeah, I also, my biggest thing is that sometimes I just keep it running, and my mental thing is when I'm switching context to make sure to just start a new tab or whatever, right? Because sometimes I just keep the conversation going when actually I'm talking about something unrelated to whatever it was I was talking about, 10, 15 minutes ago, just because it's right there. It's a tab that's open in my editor. So it's right there. But I'm not thinking like, oh, you're keeping a running log of everything I've been doing. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's also a /clear command that you can use if you want to kind of start a new thread with Claude and about something completely unrelated.
I didn't know that one. What I tend to do is like, have it maintain files. So it's like, okay, right, update whatever we just did in the feature file for this. And then I'll just start a whole freshie and just like pull that one in and be like, okay, here's your context. Let's roll. Because it's like, you might like have one chat that's about the API, right? And then you get the API into a certain state and then you save it off. And you drag that into the next one. And it's like, hey, okay, now that we have an API, let's talk about UI. And it's like, oh, I don't know what this is all about. Let me go check.
There's also, since this is apparently the Claude Code tips hour at this point,
right? Exactly. We went from a podcast where we never talked about LLMs to like, this is what we talk about. But that's what coding is nowadays.
Yeah.
It is.
There's also Claude -- resume. So if you want to just start Claude up from a previous conversation,
thank you so
it'll
much.
prompt you with like a list of your previous context, so you can start from that, which is also really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's hugely useful.
But we do have some more front-endy news because we've got a lightning round and a fire starter. So let's palate cleanse with some CSS.
Yes.
All right, I got one front-endy thing for our lightning news here, and that's that Firefox 147 is out. And the headlining feature for front-end people is that anchor positioning is a part of this release. And that means that anchor positioning is now available in all major browsers. So this is one of those that Firefox was the last one for. If you're not familiar with anchor positioning, it lets you position an element relative to another. And it's most commonly used for tooltips, pop-ups, that sort of thing. Like I have a tooltip and I want it to show up right directly above this by 4 pixels or whatever the case may be. It's a built-in way to do that with CSS without needing JavaScript. So it is now available. The one trick is that anchor positioning doesn't gracefully degrade all that well just because of the nature of you're positioning something. So if you're in an unsupported browser, it just won't be positioned. So, take that for what you will. Maybe depending on your user base, maybe you're able to use this right away. Maybe you have to wait a little bit for for all browsers to get fully supported people to upgrade their browsers and whatnot. But it is available, which is pretty exciting.
It is phenomenal. I love that feature.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can bust it out on front-end-fire.com because 100% of our users are on modern browsers. So
we feel good about that.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. All right. We also are going to bring back for 2026 our fire starters.
Woo-hoo.
We got one of those as well.
Yes. All right, so this is thanks to Adam Argyle, who wrote a great article about, I think it was 4 new things that you should know about as a CSS dev in 2026. And there was one that I was not aware of yet, and it is called container scroll state. And it is limited availability. Firefox and Safari are lagging, as you do. Yep. But
as you do. Sorry.
But the thing that it does is that it can tell 3 states of a scroller that you want to know, which is stuck, snapped, and scrollable. So if you're using position sticky in your CSS, which is when you scroll up and an element will just stay on the page and in a position, now it can know when position sticky is invoked and is happening on a page and where elements are stuck. So if you've got like the example that he did, because he did little code pens for all of these, is he's scrolling up a page and there is a header bar with different headers across the top, which are different tabs. And as he's scrolling up, the header bar sticks and the little tabs get underlined. So it was very cool. Every time he was moving to a new one, the header bar stayed where it was supposed to, but the little tabs updated of which one was actually in view at the time. So very nice that you can do that completely with CSS now. The second one, which was snapped, is you just know when a scroll snap alignment is active. So this is probably happens more on mobile than it does on desktop for a lot of instances. But if there is something that you want to happen, like you want a little overlay to pop up on a CSS image after it's scroll snapped into view, this is a way to do that with pure CSS. And then the final one was scrollable, and that just knows when content has overflowed its container and in which direction. So instead of doing some weird intersection observer and like JavaScript magic to understand is everything in this list visible or what elements in this maybe scrolling list are visible, it just can do that with CSS, which seems like such a cool, useful, non-JavaScript related feature.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited about it.
These are the sort of things that mobile, your native iOS, native Android provide tooling for a lot of this type of stuff. So I love seeing this stuff coming to the web. This is very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's just those little extra things that still make certain websites so cool or enjoyable to use that you don't even necessarily realize what it is that makes it interesting or unique. But when you do it, it's just, yeah, it feels good.
And shout out to friend of the show, Adam Argyle, with possibly the greatest header image on a blog post I've ever seen. You should scroll down to the show notes and click it just to see the art for this.
It's great.
It's so good. It's just great. You have to see it. It's very good.
Yeah. His website is a ton of fun to just explore because he has all kinds of little Easter eggs that you'll notice if you're there long enough. And it's really, really nicely done.
And those are making me happy, but why don't we discuss other things making us happy as well?
Woohoo!
Yes.
Jack, what's making you happy this week?
So tonight I get to go see Blade Runner again, the original one with Harrison Ford.
Nice.
And I love that movie. I've seen it countless times. But the twist is that I get to see it on a big, big screen at a local concert hall because there's going to be a symphonic orchestra playing the Vangelis soundtrack underneath it. So, yeah.
Nice.
And it's like a one-time thing. Like they do this for a couple of different movies every year, and it's the one night. And so it's pretty exciting. So we're going to get pho to start because you got to have noodles before you go and see Blade Runner. And just super, super excited about it.
What's the logistics of this going to be? Like, because they got to have a pretty, you got to have a big screen, you got to have an orchestra. How is this laid out?
I have no idea. I've never been to one of these. I've been to some weird movie screenings in the past. Like I was at one in Australia where I had two guys in the back that were like overdubbing the entire film with jokes live. That was fun. So I've
Mystery
done
Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, Mystery Science Theater live, that kind of thing. I've seen that, but I've seen, this is the first time I've seen like this. I've heard about the symphonic stuff before, but I've never actually seen one. And the fact that it's Blade Runner just is like, yes, done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a cool movie for it.
Yeah.
Well, you'll have to report back next week and tell us how it was.
Will do. Excited to do so.
Nice.
Paige, what is making you happy this week?
So I'm going to pick it's okay. So I'll just tell you what the name of it is before I describe it. It's called the Row Life Book Nook Garden House. And it is a kit that I got for Christmas as a white elephant Christmas gift, where you basically have this one is a tiny little greenhouse, and it's got all the pieces and all the, it's basically
awesome.
You get to assemble a tiny little greenhouse. So if you've ever done model kits where you get to like build a dinosaur or build a Gundam or build a plane or whatever, it's like this, but it's a little tiny house that I can then put on my shelf, and it's got, there's stickers in it, so it looks like a little garden, and it's got little plants that you pop out of pieces of paint or printed paper, and everything is probably made of balsa wood, but they've got all the little slots already cut out, so you just like fit the pieces together in this massive instruction booklet of like how to do it step by step. And it's been super fun. It's not a quick thing, which I kind of enjoy actually. It's like it takes hours, and so I'll pick it up for an hour on the weekend and I'll work through 2 or 3 pages of it, and then I'll put it down and I'll go pick it back up when I have 15 minutes of free time and do another step. But it has really been fun just seeing this thing kind of be assembled and come to life and fit together, and I'm really enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Great. I love it.
So is this Lego set like where it's just like a set of steps for how you assemble this and you do it? Or are you making this a little bit, make it your own, design your own thing?
No, this is pretty Lego set. Like, here's the way to assemble it, and here's the steps in order that you must do them for everything to fit together. But at the end, I'll have this little thing that I can put on my bookshelf. And I think it even has like a little light in it. So you can put a battery in it, and it'll like a little light will turn on inside and stuff like that. So it's very much like follow the steps to get to the end product. But I kind of like that. And it's really cute. And it's just something fun to do that's occupying my hands. That's not my phone,
Not
which
coding.
is great.
Yeah. Not telling Claude what to
exactly.
do. Yeah.
Exactly. It's something that I can do myself.
That is very fun. All right, my pick this week, and I'm just
Here we go. It's a visual thing.
Grabbing it
Here
real
we go.
quick, is a coffee advent calendar. And
Ooh.
Okay.
I think I might have talked this because we did this last year, so I might have talked about this last year if you're a longtime listener, but we did it again this year, and it was really awesome. So basically, it's this company called Yawn that does it. They're based out of the UK. There's probably others. I don't know if they're unique at doing this, but it is essentially, I mean, if you're on YouTube, you can see it, but it's basically like an advent calendar. It's a box with 24 little boxes. And the idea is each day you take out a little pouch. It has coffee. You can either get it grounds or the beans if you want to grind it yourself. And it makes about like 2 cups of coffee. So what we did for the last month is, new interesting bit of coffee each day. And then
That's fantastic.
I like about it. Yeah, what I like about it too is that, so I circled on the back the 2 that we liked the most. And so, now I'm going to have to follow. That's why it's still in my office here. We're now a little ways after Christmas, but I've had it here as like a to-do. Like I need to see if I can buy 2 of our favorites.
Do you like best? What's the verdict? What's the
We've got a forest fruit blend from Bolivia.
Okay.
And one from Brazil called Franzenda del Lobo. I don't remember what it was that we liked about it, but I did make a note to circle it on the back. So
nice.
So there you go.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
It's a very cool way to try a bunch of new ones and find some new favorites.
It's also my wife's birthday's in the middle of November, and could not be more perfect timing for something like this because right before the holiday season starts.
Yeah.
All right.
Reminds me of these dandelion chocolates I got my wife for when I was in Vegas, and she loved them. So I ended up getting them for her birthday as well. So, and
what are dandelion chocolates?
Yeah. Oh, they're it's just the name of the company, and there's out of SF, and it's kind of like a little foo-foo chocolate thing. But it's basically these little cubes, and the cubes are various. Like this is from Venezuela or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Tasty.
Cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, I think that is our episode for this week. Thanks you everybody again for joining us. Shout out as always to our sponsor, the Blue Collar Coder. You can check out the Blue Collar Coder on YouTube. You can check out our social media links. Those are all going to be in the show notes. You can come hang out with us on Discord. We have some fun chats in there about things that we talk about on the episode. But I think that is all for this week. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
See you then.